So back when the BMW XM was merely just an idea, I was one of the engineers that had worked on this car at the time. Of course, it took a bunch of turns and there were a bunch of different decisions made, but eventually it ended up as a production model vehicle. Now it's going to be coming out in 2023. I'm going to go through a bit of an analysis on this vehicle. I'm going to touch on, of course, the base, you could say the base model XM, as well as the XM Label Red, both of which are production vehicles which were created in South Carolina, which is where I was working at the time as an engineer. But if you guys are new here, definitely like the video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell once you hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, let's start the video off. So when I was an engineer at BMW, I worked with the X5s, X6s, the X7, which came out somewhat recently. And there was a lot of talk about the next vehicle coming out, which is the XM. So I did a lot of conceptual work with this vehicle. I never really quite got my hands on the physical model, because before you actually build a vehicle, like years in advance, you're doing a bunch of planning because you have to make sure everything flows extremely smoothly. And so that's where my job as an engineer came in. It's fun, it looks sporty, but I just don't really like how big the kidney grills are on the front. But then again, when you see them in almost every BMW model, specifically with the newer X5s and X7s and so on and so forth, you kind of get used to it. Who exactly are they marketing this vehicle to? Because I don't know, it's not for older people, that's for sure. But it's not really for younger people either because of the insane price that it costs. But either way, that's a good segue for me to get into the specs of this vehicle. So you're looking at about 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. That's for the Label Red edition. And for the same Label Red edition, it's going to give 700 plus horsepower. Whereas for the stock edition, it's going to give you 650 horsepower. As I did mention earlier, it is also a PHEV, so plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is what PHEV stands for. It is rear biased, however, still all-wheel drive. A lot more vehicles these days are becoming all-wheel drives. And as far as top speed, you're likely to get over 150 miles per hour. And you can get up to 160 if you really push it. Now, this is where things get interesting because the price of this vehicle, you're going to be paying upwards of $160,000. Now, that's just for the stock edition. Now, if you're getting the Label Red edition, you're likely to be paying $170,000+. Is that really worth it? While the car, from the interior, I do have to say, it looks really nice. You have the big screen on the front. Of course, you have this stereotypical like BMW styling. I don't know if it's really worth $160,000, but I feel like I've spoken enough about this. Let's go through the reviews and see what people think. So Fran B96 says, "What a weird car, and it's not just the looks. It seems like the engineers and the marketers wanted to make two completely different things." And you could probably say that. Over-designed, yet not opulent enough. Too harsh to be a luxe SUV, yet obviously not a sports car. And that pretty much essentially encapsulates my point of view versus the marketing point of view. Because I thought as an engineer, I thought it was going to be a somewhat cheap vehicle where it would be for like maybe somebody in their mid-20s, maybe early 30s, as just something of a fun car. Maybe, I wouldn't say it would be on the level of maybe like your Jeep EV SUVs, but maybe something along that sort of line. But for it to be several $100,000, I really don't understand who they're marketing this car to, because I truly don't think it's going to sell very well, at least. GWF6559 says, "I have serious doubts about BMW's design review process. I expect it no longer has one. This is a car for an emperor with invisible clothes." Pretty much my thought exactly. Insomniac Ryan says, "Well, this is certainly the ultimate representative of what the M brand has become. Nobody can argue with that." I really don't know where BMW is heading. Clearly, I don't work for them anymore, because if I did and I was talking like this about the XM, people wouldn't like it. But if I'm being honest, it's taken a weird turn these days. And maybe I'm partially guilty, because I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna work on the engineering of this vehicle. I didn't really have much of a complaint. Maybe I should have said something at the time. A lot of the engineers, or a lot of maybe the designers you could say, and the marketing team, they're not really in touch with what exactly the market wants. They keep on adding such unnecessary aspects to this vehicle when they could really just keep it short, sweet, straight to the point. For example, the M3s, right? The E30s or the E36, 46, those were cars, those are driver cars, where essentially it has your stick shift, you have your 3 pedals, of course specs wise it performs well, and is a reasonable price, and people were buying that like crazy. But when you have a car like this, nobody really wants to buy it, and that's really the problem. And of course, second to last review, Brian G says, "Dear BMW, please, for the love of God, change your design language. This looks like a Lego set of what a BMW might look like." I mean, do I really need to add anything else to this comment? Probably not. And then last but not least, Nicholas N says, "There's not a single angle that looks acceptable for public consumption." And I think that's a little bit extreme, but I mean, again, with the price and the design, you really get the point now. I've sort of reiterated this several times through this video. But either way, maybe I'm talking total BS. So let me know again in the comments below, what do you think about this XM? Is it here to stay, or is it probably just something that's going to die out just as quickly as it's come onto the market? And having said all that, that ends this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!